Hi, I am your Professor Mark. Welcome to this journey through the world of policy and governance. Today we'll dive into the topic, political economy and stakeholder dynamics. In this session, we'll explore how public policies are shaped by institutions, interests, and the diverse actors that engage in the policy-making process. You'll see how media, voters, courts, and international players all interact in this dynamic landscape. Let's begin our exploration. Introduction to Political Economy and Stakeholder Dynamics. We begin by recognizing that policymaking is rarely just about data or logic. It's about people, power, and institutions. Political economy gives us the lens to see these interactions. Stakeholders, from voters to lobbyists, each shape outcomes based on their interests and leverage. We'll unpack these dynamics to better understand why policies succeed, fail, or stall. This framing will guide our journey through complex yet fascinating policy terrain. Sources of political constraints. Every policymaker operates under a framework of constraints. These include constitutional boundaries, electoral cycles, and party politics. For example, leaders might delay reforms to avoid voter backlash before an election. Partisan conflict can also paralyze action, leading to gridlock. Understanding these pressures helps explain why good ideas don't always turn into good policy. Strategic responses to constraints. Despite limits, policymakers have tools to navigate. They can reframe issues to align with dominant narratives or build coalitions across divides. Incremental change is often more successful than radical overhaul. By understanding these strategies, we become more realistic and pragmatic policy thinkers. Constraints aren't barriers, they're conditions to be strategically managed. Competing interests in policy. Public policy is a battleground of interests. Business, labor, citizens, and activists all seek influence. Some use lobbying, others use media or mass mobilization. These groups don't just react to policy, they help write it. Recognizing these forces reveals how much power lies outside of government halls. Institutional rules and structures. Institutions are the rules of the game. Legislatures, courts, and bureaucracies each play by different norms. These structures create predictability but also inertia. They determine how input becomes output in the policy cycle. By decoding institutional behavior, we decode the policy-making process itself. Media's role in policy dynamics. Media is a powerful policy actor. It chooses what stories to highlight, what becomes public agenda. But it's not neutral. Ownership, framing, and bias affect what we see. This agenda-setting function makes media a kind of informal legislature. Today's policymakers must engage media strategically, not just reactively. Public opinion and policy. Public opinion isn't just noise, it's a signal politicians heed. Polls, petitions, and protests shape how issues are prioritized. But leaders can also manipulate opinion, using media to engineer consent. Understanding this back and forth helps us grasp the emotional and strategic layers behind public support or outrage. Voter preferences in policymaking. Voters influence policy both directly and indirectly. In democracies, officials track what the median voter wants. This explains policy moderation in many systems, but voter expectations also evolve with past policies, creating a feedback loop. Anticipating this helps policymakers design reforms that resonate and endure. Rise of populism. Populism arises when voters feel unheard or betrayed. It often targets elites and institutions. Populist leaders simplify narratives, presenting us versus them worldviews. This creates policy volatility, as institutions are bypassed or undermined. It's crucial to understand populism to protect both democracy and smart policymaking. Understanding bureaucratic behavior. Bureaucrats aren't faceless drones. They follow incentives and institutional cultures. They interpret laws, allocate resources, and even reshape policy intent. Internal rules and hierarchies shape how they respond to directives. Knowing how bureaucracies think is key to predicting implementation outcomes. Responsiveness versus inertia. Bureaucracies often resist change. This path dependency makes them stable, but slow. Red tape can stifle innovation, yet reforms, like performance-based models or digital tools, can increase flexibility. Balancing consistency with responsiveness is the heart of modern governance. Judiciary as a policy actor. Courts do more than resolve disputes. They shape policy boundaries. Through judicial review, they can strike down laws. They also enforce rights, influencing policy outcomes in areas like health, education, or policing. Their decisions become precedents, subtly guiding future laws. They are policymakers in robes. Judicial independence and constraints. A strong judiciary needs independence and capacity. Without both, it's symbolic at best. But too much judicial power can provoke backlash. Courts must walk a fine line, ensuring accountability without triggering institutional resistance. Understanding this balance is crucial for policy resilience. Civil society's policy influence. Civil society is democracy's conscience. NGOs, advocacy groups, and community organizations expose corruption, champion reforms, and mobilize public voices. They bring grassroots issues into national dialogue. Far from being peripheral, they're central to transparent, inclusive governance. Strategies for civil society. Impact civil society doesn't just critique, it creates. Through litigation, protests, and co-design with governments, it drives real change. Public interest lawsuits have transformed health, education, and environmental policy. Partnerships between NGOs and governments are increasingly shaping inclusive policies. Understanding policy networks. Policy isn't just made in parliaments, it's networked. Governments, think tanks, corporations, and activists form webs of influence. These networks govern by negotiation, not command. Understanding who's in the room and who's not is essential for mapping real power in policymaking. Coalitions in policy formation. Policy coalitions endure across election cycles. They unite actors around shared beliefs, not just interests. They share resources, knowledge, media, funding to shape long-term agendas. The Advocacy Coalition framework helps explain how they sustain influence over time. Global pressures on domestic policy. Global institutions like the WTO or WHO shape local policy. Policy ideas also travel. What works in one country inspires another. Aid often comes with strings attached, nudging recipient nations toward reforms. Domestic autonomy is now shared with global norms and actors. Negotiation and mediation in policy. Policy is negotiation. Compromise isn't weakness, it's strategy. Mediation helps resolve gridlock, especially when trust is low. Interest-based negotiation aligns stakeholders around shared outcomes. These skills are vital in polarized, high-stakes environments. Conclusion: navigating stakeholder dynamics policy is about people, power, and process. Strategic analysts must map interests, balance constraints, and adapt to change. The ability to negotiate, build coalitions, and innovate within systems defines success. This isn't just theory, it's the toolkit for real-world impact.